Hello everybody, Gilligan Kruger 0829 here, and welcome to the final day of my belated Avengers movie series review. Today we'll be looking at the long-awaited collaboration and what serves as the title for this series, The Avengers, from just last month. Yes, it's been 4 years since Iron Man came out in 2008, and now all the pieces have come together for this magnificent film, The Avengers, and boy has it been getting a lot of hype. From hearing about it was directed by sci-fi god Joss Whedon, we have theaters are backing up in the lines, tickets are selling out like no one's business. But the question everyone was curious is, does it live up to all the hype it's getting? Well, unless you're among the small percentage of the world who hasn't seen this movie yet, you probably already know the answer to that question, but I'm about to give my own views in this review now. So, sit back and buckle up, because we're looking at the long-awaited superhero hit, The Avengers. So, this movie starts with Loki, played again by Tom Hiddleston, who is talking to an otherworldly being known simply as the Other, and they're striking up a deal. See, the Other will give Loki control of his Chitauri army. Apologies if I didn't pronounce that right. If Loki will give him the Tesseract, which he plans to steal from Earth. Now, the Tesseract is currently being experimented on in a secret facility that Nick Fury, played by Samuel L. Jackson, is supervising. However, the experiment goes wrong and Loki manages to use it to get to Earth and wreak havoc on the facility, not only causing extensive damage, but also taking control of several S.H.I.E.L.D. operatives, including Clint Barton, or Hawkeye, played by Jeremy Renner. So, because of this catastrophe, Fury decides to unleash the Avengers Initiative, which essentially gets together all of the heroes we've been seeing from all the movies leading up to this. Black Widow goes to India to find Bruce Banner, now played by Mark Ruffalo as opposed to Edward Norton, to talk to him. Agent Coulson goes to find Tony Stark, still played by Robert Downey Jr., to talk to him, and Nick Fury himself goes to talk to Steve Rogers, who is still coping from being waken up 70 years after he was frozen from World War II, of course. And the group does manage to capture Loki a little bit on. They're interrupted by Thor, who breaks Loki out in an attempt to reason with him. Loki almost escapes, but they capture him again, and all of the crew are brought upon Nick Fury's vessel. Unfortunately, though, they immediately start to have debates over not only what to do with Loki, but plans that S.H.I.E.L.D. was using the Tesseract for. And without going into any more detail, the movie is essentially about the group trying to overcome their differences and band together to stop Loki's invasion. Now, if any of you watched my video, can't believe that, it wasn't coming to my head, where I said what series I was going to do this year. I said towards the end of The Avengers that, looking at the trailer, if the movie did not deliver, I will have lost all faith in Hollywood. Not only did this movie deliver, but it lived beyond my expectations. This is like a blockbuster summer movie on steroids. It gets everything right. Maybe a little nitpick every now and then, but it's action-packed, it's funny at some times, and it knows when to focus on all of the characters. Let's, of course, start it with the action, as I've been going on with every film in this series so far. This puts most every action film in the last couple of years to shame, because it knows exactly what it wants to do. Sometimes it's high-octane thrilling, and other times it's subtle and keeps you in the shadows as if it's building something up. Yes, there's debris flying everywhere, there are explosions, characters are getting their asses kicked, then they retaliate by kicking the asses of anyone else. It's just awesome. I cannot think of a single action scene that was poorly choreographed, poorly filmed. It's just really cool. But I also kind of want to talk about the humor in this movie, which I was surprised how well this worked. It's not a huge part of the story, but it's there every now and then, and it does provide some pretty good chuckles, especially with what they do with the Hulk. And I'll go into that more in a few minutes here, but that was really well placed. And speaking of this, everything is well placed and perfectly paced in this movie, because we're given time to get invested with what's going on, then boom, action scene. It's badass. I just thought it was really well done, and it's giving a lot of time to see all the characters fighting, and that leads to what I personally think is the best thing about this movie. The characters and how they interact amongst each other. Like, when they're all together at first, they don't really get along, and they bicker a lot. But you know what? That's how people tend to act in situations like this. They have to get over their differences, and that's what makes it believable. In fact, I was blown away by how believable this was. Getting past the superhero stuff, this seemed very realistic among a group meeting, and the director of this, as I said, is Joss Whedon, who I hear is a huge fan of the comic books. I think he wanted to give this something that both fans and newcomers could get into, and there's plenty of all that. And another plus to this film is it looks fantastic. I mean, really, I'm not sure how it looks in comparison to the comic books, but when we first saw the helicarrier, the vessel, again, I'm having trouble coming up with words today, that Nick Fury and the Avengers fly on, it looked exactly how I imagined it, right down to the last detail. But I actually kind of want to go back into what I was saying about the interactions with the characters, because I don't think I covered that all that much. What I really like about this movie is not only does it give time to all the characters, like there isn't just one central character, like it isn't just Iron Man, it isn't just Captain America, but the way it handles it, since a lot of these characters are on complete opposite ends of the spectrum, that makes it all the more interesting. Like, you've got Iron Man and Thor, they're still pretty much the arrogant. The Thor is a little bit softer this time than we saw in the last movie. I still think he has that feel. But then again, we've got Captain America, who still has the whole never back down and is much more straightforward. And I really like the differences that we saw in these movies. If they were all the same, like if they were all arrogant or if they were all straightforward, it wouldn't be very credible. But again, Whedon, you got it right. And I really want to talk about how they got the Hulk in this movie, because I think they got him down perfectly at last. I thought they did it kind of well in the 2008 movie, but this movie perfected it, because the Hulk, while he should be strong and heroic, shall also be pretty intimidating at the same time. And this movie just manages that perfectly. The Hulk is actually kind of scary in this movie when we first see him. Like, there's one scene where he's beating up a plane and the pilot decides to eject, but the Hulk just grabs it and pulls it back. And I'm thinking to myself, all the Hulk can be saying is, where do you think you're going, pal? You're staying here and being crashed to smithereens with the rest of the plane. And I was actually like, this is kind of scary when I saw the movie. That's what I was thinking. I did say that, but, you know. So, yeah, I finally think they got the Hulk right, and what's awkward is, though he does have the more intimidating moments, he also has some of the funnier moments, like when I go back to the humor of this. Like, there's one scene towards the end where Loki is in front of him, he's just like, I am a god, I'm going to, and Hulk just grabs my leg and just starts smashing him back and forth. And everyone in the audience, myself included, we were laughing our asses off when we saw this. I think the Hulk also skulks under his breath, he's like, puny god. And that was great. It's just really good. It looks beautiful. The action is great. There's surprisingly a good amount of humor, and the characters are really good together. It's practically everything we could have wanted, and I don't think they could have gotten better. Now, if I had to nitpick about this, and hear me out here, it's just a nitpick. I'm not even taking real points off of this movie, but if I had to say one little problem I did have with this movie is in its story. I'm not saying it's bland or forgettable or even all that cliche, but the movie is 2.5 hours long, and occasionally it does feel like it goes a little bit slow between some of the characters. Like, There's one scene between Thor and Loki right after he frees him the first time, and I couldn't help but feel kind of bored in that scene. I mean, I understand what they're trying to say. Thor is trying to get him back onto, into Asgard, but I thought it was just a little bit draggy. In fact, actually, while I want to say that, that's another little nitpick. There are a few things I don't think they explained well enough. Like, one thing I was really interested in seeing with this movie was how Thor was going to get back to Earth, since in the last movie, his only way of doing that, I was pretty sure, was smashed. So how could he do it? In this movie, it's just like, boom, he's back. Not really much exposition to that. But you know what? Those are nitpicks, and they're barely even enough to call it nitpicks. It did not distract from this movie at all. This movie kicked off summer on a very high note, and I could not be more impressed. Whether you're a Marvel fan, superhero fan, or just a fan of movies in general, I definitely recommend checking this out if it's still in theaters. I hear it's already grossed about $1 billion at the box office, and I am not surprised. This is one of the coolest movies I've seen in a very long time, and I give props to Joss Whedon and all the actors for the great build-up. It definitely paid off. It was definitely worth it. So, 5 stars out of 5 for the Avengers. And that brings the end of my Avengers series review. Later today, I'm going to try and get the beginning of my Prometheus series review, with that coming out this Friday. So, I hope to get onto that, and yeah, that's all I gotta say. You can find all my movie reviews on my YouTube channel. If you have a movie you'd like me to review, comment on this video or on my channel. Subscribe if you like, and until next time, peace!